In 2015, I picked up my first 7-string guitar after only playing 6 strings for the first 14 years of my guitar journey. It seemed like everyone was going for the lowest tunings possible in the 2010s with the gent grays, and I kind of caught the tail end of that, though I wouldn't classify anything that I do as gent. In recent years, though, the trend has moved back towards 6 strings with bands like Intervals and Polyphia and guitarists like Pliny. I see a lot of modern guitarists on social media with 6 strings, often in standard tuning as well. So do you need an extended range guitar in 2022? Now, I think the answer to that kind of depends on what your goals are specifically, but I'll give a few examples of when, where, and why I would use them myself. Now, the short answer to this is use whatever you want to make the music that you want to make. The nice thing about the move back towards 6 strings recently is that you don't have to have a 7 or 8 string guitar to sound quote-unquote modern, whatever the heck that means. For myself, I use whatever the music calls for. On my latest single, The Great Stereopticon, I use a 6 string in standard tuning. For that one, I was going for more of a classic prog rock vibe, and it was kind of unnecessary for there to be any low-tuned guitars. Most often, though, I use a 7-string for the rhythm guitars. I found that to be the perfect range for the kind of music I usually write. I tune my 7s to drop A so I can get pretty heavy when necessary, but the thing I really like about it is that the bass can still be an octave below the guitars. My music is often quite heavy and aggressive, and I find extended range guitars to be a pretty integral part of achieving that heaviness. The 7-string allows me to get some of that low, heavy sound, while also allowing the bass guitar to be its own voice. I'm a big proponent of the bass guitar being its own instrument. It's necessary to double rhythm guitars in a lot of cases to make the low end of a mix extra heavy, but as much as possible, I try to give the bass its own parts separate from the guitars. What about 8 strings though? I personally love it when bands use 8 strings, especially if they save them for specific moments. For this, Haken always comes to mind for me. They're really good at using 8 strings in just the right place for that extra level of intensity. And of course, someone like Tosin Obasi is another great example of extended range guitars being used in an interesting way. He's basically created a whole new style of guitar playing, and the low tunings are a major part of that. I've found for myself that anything lower than a 7-string works best if I use it very sparingly, just when I want that extra low end every once in a while. When I use an 8-string, the bass and guitar end up in the same octave, which can be super intense in the right place, but for me it becomes overbearing pretty quickly. Now, extended range guitars aren't just for being heavy. I found they can lead to some really interesting chord voicings, and they can add some extra range for playing lead as well, not to mention thumping, slapping, and all of the other bass guitar techniques that sound really good with low tunings. And of course, 6 strings can be super heavy. Here's a clip from one of my songs on a 6-string in standard tuning. And you can always downtune a 6-string as far as you want if low tunings are your thing. I actually find myself practicing most often on a 6-string, probably because I grew up practicing on a 6-string, but for composing I tend to lean towards the 7 for the kind of music that I'm making. So at the end of the day, use whatever you want. You can sound fresh and unique on a 6-string in standard tuning or a 9-string in drop Z. Just find the tool that's right for you, because no one really cares what instrument you're using as long as the music you're making is resonating with them. So let me know your thoughts about extended range guitars in the comments and tell me what you prefer to use yourself. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share. Till next time, stay proggy.